piece go in? Did you have any trouble with it?
I haven't put it up yet.
Okay, well remember the springs hold it together, so be careful.
Well, I'm afraid kind of to do things. What do I...
Oh, don't be afraid at all. It's just if you twist it, it'll all go kaboom.
Yeah.
But you can just put it back together again. But if you're careful, it shouldn't. It's held under.
What do I do? Do I twist one side and then the other? Or?
There's two little holes in the top, and you put a drywall screw in.
Oh, that's it. Okay.
And in the wall, and you sort of hang it on that.
Yeah.
Then I usually level it and make a little mark.
And how do I get the light up?
The light adjusts, you know, with... Maybe I should come by and install it. Do you want me to?
I'd be glad to pay you to do it. And we're excited about these things too.
Yeah. All right. Any picks, any faves you have this year?
Well, you know.
This was last year. This is new. I have to push this one. And this one's new too. It's a little... I wish there was a little more light. Fascinated by that. I think it's the only reason why I do art is that I was always interested in sort of setting up a situation where something could happen. Something to surprise me, and especially when I was in ceramics, that I used to, all my pieces were sort of like kiln accidents. I'd set up all these things in the kiln, and then when the kiln got really hot, all the things would melt and fuse together. And then I'd pull the things out, and they would become these new things. And sometimes they would work, and sometimes they wouldn't, you know. They would either stand, or they wouldn't stand, or they, you know, so it was sort of like a collage where I'm a benevolent God, and I'm letting my things sort of do whatever they want to do. And when I got out, I started to do collage, and I would take the collage and light it from behind, so when the light was off, that you would have this collage of different layers of material. And then the light's on, and this is what I did in Japan, when the light's on, then you get a different reading of it. And the reading is not always, I can't really control it that much as an artist, right? I can control a flat surface or a one read surface. And I think, you know, perhaps it was just lack of faith in my own ability. I never really was wanting to do a very deliberate thing in work, like say I was going to do a still life, and I could work upon my presentation of a still life. It never really interested me. And like I said, maybe it was just whatever, insecurity or something. I always liked some kind of surprise, something that I never really quite expected. And then when I started doing these, it's the same thing. A lot of things are controlled, and they're really just controlling a sort of randomness that'll happen when, well, like this piece, when all the lights are on and everything is going, and then when dusk comes and it sits alone and it's the only light in a room. I mean, that's how the two extremes that all my pieces are supposed to be in, and that's when they surprise me. Because, you know, when this is the only thing in a room, you can see everything, you know, everything is lit. And that's also, I love that control. You know, that's why I always say, or that I'm always interested in putting my pieces into places. Because then I know that in a way, my piece will have the final say at one point in time, you know. Think too historically, like my knowledge of art history and my respect for other artists' work enters into my decision-making process, because if I'm on a track where I'm going to, say, reiterate something that I think someone has already devoted enough, I mean, Dan Flavin has devoted his work towards a certain aesthetic, much as there's another artist that I like, Culver. He, did you see his stuff?
I'm not familiar with it right offhand. I may have seen his
Oh,
work. Well, he uses light bulbs in a way. He uses incandescent light, whereas Flavin uses fluorescent light. But Bill Culbert is using fluorescent light, and he in some way, well, he uses fluorescent a little bit, but he is very playful, and he does things. Actually, when I saw his work, it was really interesting because I had already sort of fallen upon the same sort of thing that he was doing, even being completely ignorant of his work because he's not particularly famous or anything. And I thought, well, this is interesting that someone else has sort of is saying that maybe this whole idea is underutilized in sculpture, light, you know, and I'm going to play with that. Pieces of things. I have pieces of ideas and pieces of this and that, and it's a matter of, you know, screwing them together or juxtaposing them in some way that will create for me what I would call finished work, which usually has a couple of things going on in it, usually that contradict each other. You know, you figure you have to have some, like, forces of good and evil or something going on in your work. And so that's, you know, if something reads one way, then I have to play with it until it reads both ways, just to confuse and anger my viewers. So.
Classical in my work, and maybe that's part of the thing is I have a lot of faith in artwork. I think that it is a magical realm where certain ideas can be discussed and certain beauties can be created, new beauties, you know, whatever. And I think that in a way conceptual art is tried to rip the foundations from that. Because like I said, putting something in a gallery situation and saying, well, you know, this clod of dirt is actually beautiful. But instead they're more over there exposing a kind of disdain that artists have for what they're presenting to the viewer. I don't think that's why art can't sell like a crummy Hollywood film. I mean, you know, a Hollywood film that talks about love and family and, you know, those huge hits that they're going to come out this Christmas, you know, where everybody wants to hear about how people really do love each other and the good guys do triumph. And that always sells in Hollywood. And basically, I think art, good God, you have to kind of do that again. You can't just keep saying this whole thing is a fraud. You have to say, no, this is a magical world where certain things can happen and that be a part of it. Come and look at it. You know, it loves you. This piece loves you. And I think all my pieces are about how much I love my viewer. You know, I give my viewer everything I can possibly give. Better in the dark, but please bear with me. You can turn it on if you want. Just pull the chain. It's a little stiff, just pull.